Today we're presenting an exhilarating story about courage and cutting. Indeed, it's a performance of a dance on the edge of a knife. Since there's no way to start, let's begin with the MC. Slicing it off feels just like cutting a cake, so smooth it makes me question my life. After bagging and grinding, this person is history. But then, suddenly an idea popped into Johan's head to quickly turn off the machine. Heat Bio's hand, his thumbs the company seal essential for signing. His ring might also be useful someday. Cleaning traces is easy. Special cleaner wipes off blood, fire cleans clothes. After wrapping everything up, Johan finally had some alone time until a sneaky crow decided to steal the spotlight. This crow was on a mission, headed straight for that finger on the ground. Johan rushed over to stop it, but he was a step too late. Morning comes and he just glances at the leftovers in the fridge, heads to work like always. Hans always advised his clients to keep living life like nothing's wrong. Now it's his turn, and looking at the trunk, Hans is reminded of that smell. It's enough to bring a tear to your eye. So he chose to take the subway, but it felt like everyone was staring at him, leaving Hans an anxious wreck. Just got on the subway, bus calls with urgency, meets at park at 8, but Henry interrupts. Henry was in the middle of a three-way meeting. Apparently his weekend visit with his daughter stirred up some drama. Those ladies really know how to throw shade. Listening to the boss's ramble on, Henry found inner peace through meditation, reminiscing about his days of being a workhorse. Hans resolved not to take it anymore. Since he's already committed murder and arson, why not be bolder? Using Domo's influence, he prepared to threaten the bosses. 10 years in the law firm, all just to be someone else's errand boy. Hans fumed with anger. Now he was getting bullied by the receptionist. What an embarrassment. Hans couldn't hold back his rage. If you think you can kick me out, Domo won't be happy. You all know his methods of revenge. This left the three silent. Not wanting to cause them trouble, Hans offered to terminate the contract and start a new firm. In planning to only serve Domo as a client. Don't worry, I'll make him sign a confidentiality agreement for your protection, but you got to pay me 10 months severance. Although the bosses burst into laughter, Hans knew deep down they would eventually agree. Hans strolled back to his office, elegantly packing up, copying every detail about Domo, and snagged his power of attorney. Stepping out of the building, Hans smelled freedom. Just as predicted, he hadn't returned to his apartment. And then came a call from Hans' wife, asking him to come home to discuss their daughter's preschool plans. At this point, the glue had set. Promising his wife, Hans tested the fingerprint. Perfection made him beam. Thankfully, everything went smoothly. Elated, he dashed to the car for his wife's toy. Looking up, Hans was getting a bit too carried away, chatting with the toy, forgetting it had recording capabilities. Talk about a boomerang effect. Just then, Murat's voice message said he was at the park. Hans set off, only to find Murat casually feeding breadcrumbs on the street. A gun was pointed at him, and suddenly Murat had one foot in the grave. When Hans arrived, he found the police had cordoned off the area, and he got caught red-handed by the sheriff, struggling to explain he was just out for a walk post-subway. Unbelievable. Yet the sheriff understood, an old schoolmate of Hans. He urged Hans to cooperate with the police. Murat's murder showed the Domo's gang was already on a revenge rampage. Only by revealing Domo's whereabouts could the police protect Hans. He just escaped from being a workhorse and didn't want to go back, but Domo was long gone. His finger was still in the fridge. Forget it. He'll just let it slide. After a tangled talk with the sheriff, Hans excused himself, mind swelling, and hurried to the subway home. He needed to dispose of Domo's finger immediately when suddenly there's a knock at the door. Tony was yelling for Hans to let him in. If caught, he was done for. Panicking, Hans tossed the finger into the toilet, trying to flush it away. But the persistent finger remained unmoving, stubbornly insisting on staying. Hans internally screamed, "No." Just as Tony broke down the door, Hans snatched it up and stuffed it in his pocket, trying to play it cool, but that finger was all wet. Hans quickly struck a pose to cover the evidence. Tony threatened him that he had to spill the beans on Domo, or else he was really going to unleash the hounds. His prize pooch definitely preferred human flesh. Hans watched Tony calmly in the bathroom. Hans focused hard and quickly offered the finger to the pup, successfully quieting the hound. Tony issued another stern warning. He must receive news about Domo in 3 days, or Hans would truly become dog food. Just as the crisis was averted, it seemed the crow who snatched the finger that night still had its eyes on him. If you enjoyed this story, we sincerely hope you'll click the subscribe button. Don't forget to do so.